Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Amanda. I am our marketing director here at State Listings. We own MyState and New York State MLS. And we figured that since this is a marketing series, and especially since social media marketing is my specialty, it's where I started, it would make a bit more sense for me to talk to you guys today. So for those of you joining us for the first time in this series, every Thursday in May, we're going to be covering a different marketing topic. Each session will have new tips that you can put to use right away, as well as we'll discuss how this can help you going forward, because what we're going through right now is certainly unique. And that's not going to be how things always are, fingers crossed. So we want to make sure that we're giving you skills that will help you a lot now, but are also really actionable, really helpful as we move forward. So the first step to social media marketing is choosing your platform. So for those of you who haven't already started on a specific platform, I say choosing for a reason. It's really, really important to start slow. Start with one social site or possibly two, depending on which you choose, and focus all your attention on that. You can't just repost the same content on every channel and expect it to perform well. Attempting to master every site at once is a great way to confuse your followers. Content that's funny or useful on one site just won't work for other sites. You won't gain followers there, and you'll confuse people and put people off. So start with one network, and then when you expand, again, you'll need to create distinct content for each network. So let's go over what those are. By far, the most ubiquitous social network is Facebook. It's got 2.4 billion monthly active users, and it's the most widely used social media platform in the US. It's really great because you're able to create a professional page that's separate from your personal account, which also lets you stream live video. That way you can connect with family, you can share things that you maybe don't want to cross over with your professional image, but still be able to have a Facebook presence. Second is YouTube. YouTube is considered a bit of a hybrid because for many people it's not a social network. It's either a search engine, it's where they go for how-to videos and product reviews, but it is really important to consider because it has 2 billion monthly active users and it's the world's second most visited website after Google. Some of the most popular content on YouTube is product reviews and how-to videos. Then there's LinkedIn, which I know a lot of real estate professionals use as well. It has 260 million monthly active users, and it focuses on professional and networking through person-to-person connections, as well as they have industry groups for most industries, and they definitely have plenty for real estate. One of the great things about LinkedIn is that if you're looking to become a thought leader in your fields, if you're looking to corner a specific niche, you're able to write and share articles on your profile. These are intensely shareable. They can even be picked up for LinkedIn's featured articles, and this helps really show off your expertise. So for example, if you work in commercial real estate and you'd like to show your expertise in commercial real estate, LinkedIn could be great for you to join, post about your business, about your experience, and create articles. Then there's Twitter. It has approximately 340 million active users. They don't publish data like a lot of the other sites do. This is a short form and mostly text-based network. It used to be 140 characters. They've doubled to 280, but that's still a lot fewer than you think once you get there. It's mostly used for time-sensitive and breaking news. Unlike your posts on other social networks that'll last a lot longer, the half-life of a tweet is 18 minutes, which means that it gets most of its interaction, engagement, the most eyeballs in it within the first 18 minutes, and then it's just sort of a slow decline into obscurity. Content on Twitter is a lot less reusable than on other sites. Instagram has 1 billion monthly active users, and 500 million people open Instagram stories per month. So these are stories, photos, or short videos that show up at the top of your audience's screen when they open their Instagram feed. They disappear after 24 hours, but they can be highlighted on your page. And that's really great because you can create, Instagram stories are a lot less formal than Instagram posts. So it lets you create quicker bites of content on days when you maybe don't have time to edit a full photo. For example, if you have a luxury listing that really deserves some attention. Instagram stories are great for days when you don't have all of the time to edit photos to make them look as presentable so that you can still post and engage with your network. The great thing about Instagram is that because they're owned by Facebook, your images there can be cross-posted to Facebook. This is why I said start with one or two networks. I'd mostly say start with just one, But if you want to start with Facebook, I think it's a great idea to add Instagram as well, because then you can get those photos and videos over to your Facebook page with only needing to post once. And I will say that is the one exception to my you need to create different content for different platforms. Totally fine to share your Instagram posts to Facebook, just make sure you're creating additional content for Facebook as well. And on Instagram, as on a lot of networks that are very image and video focused, your videos will receive higher engagement than photos. So consider that when deciding what content you'd like to post. I wanted to throw in a couple of other social networks here, because while those are the major platforms that I've seen real estate agents using and having success on, there's always an exception, and you can create a niche for yourself by being one of fewer agents on platforms that are less popular for real estate. Top is TikTok. It was the most downloaded app in the first quarter of this year. It has over 800 million monthly active users. However, over 2/3 of users are aged 16 to 24. The TikToks are short form video content that are humor related, or you may have heard of TikTok dances. They will have videos of multiple accounts doing the same type of dance choreography to the same sound. Snapchat is similar to TikTok in that it has a much younger user base. 90% of Americans aged 13 to 24 use Snapchat, and 82% of their users are under 34. However, it does have 382 monthly active users, and 72% of members of Generation Z, so if you were in our generation webinar, you know those are folks who are about 22 and under, are users who aren't reachable by TV ads. So they probably don't watch traditional television programs and maybe only use Snapchat. So that may be your way in if you decide that you'd like to work with younger buyers looking for their first home. Pinterest has 322 million monthly active users. You can pin links like products, recipes, and tutorials from across the web. Most of these apps have a fairly even split in terms of gender when it comes to their user base. Some will trend slightly more men, slightly more women, but Pinterest, over 72% of their users are women. I get asked a lot, well, which is the best platform for me? And that really depends on what your goals are, who you are. There is no one size fits all best platform. The best one is the one where you're able to reach and connect with the buyers that you're looking for. I'll be focusing on Facebook here. It's the most popular app. It has a much wider age range. As I mentioned, a lot of the networks that we've gone over here focus heavily on younger users. It also has a lot more functionality than other apps. So it's a great place to start and be able to experiment with a whole bunch of different kinds of content. If you're aiming for a specific demographic though, like I mentioned, try new platforms. Like I said, if you're that agent that wants to work with Gen Z buyers, maybe you want to help people look for and find their first home, you may want to look at TikTok. I've seen some pretty funny real estate agents on there, and it could be worth a try. When you're choosing what platform you would like to post on, here are some questions to help you narrow down and make sure you find the right one for you. The first one is you need to define who your ideal client is. And yes, we know that the amazing real estate professionals on our platform can sell to anybody, but that doesn't mean that everyone is your best client. So what kind of clients have you been the most successful with in the past? For example, I saw one real estate agent talking about this who was a single mother, and a lot of the people in her area were also single mothers. So those were the folks that she was working with the most frequently. So she looked for platforms where those moms would be looking and sort of met them where they were at. Those were the customers that she was the most successful with. You want to focus on attracting your ideal client while continuing to serve everybody else. This just helps you narrow down your content, narrow down where you are. So you need to know what they care about and what are they worried about. For example, if you work with first-time buyers, a lot of them might be worried about saving up for a down payment, so you can create content based on that. If you're looking to work with buyers who are looking to sell their old home while moving into a new home, there's a whole host of worries that come along with that. And if you can create content that addresses that, you'll be able to serve them a lot better and get their attention, which moves into how can I solve their problems? Think about what problems your clients have had in the past and how you've solved them. And then you can refer to the first couple of slides here, refer back to this video, and figure out where are they spending time online. If it's on Facebook, that's where you need to be. If you tend to work with a lot of handy people like house flippers, it's likely that they're on YouTube because, again, that how-to content is really popular there. So now that you've chosen your social network, it's time to think about your first impressions and putting your best foot forward. It's really important to keep an updated profile on these sites. They're not set it and forget it. So first, the basics. Your profile on any social networking site needs your full name. I know this kind of goes without saying, but many sites will allow you to have a username, something like that, and that's great. You can absolutely pick something short and fun and snappy, but you need to make sure your full name is on there so folks can find you. I'd also highly recommend including a photo of yourself. It doesn't need to be a professional headshot, especially because some of these sites are a little bit less formal, but it should be high resolution and well lit. Please resist the urge to filter your photos, to go a little too crazy with Facetune. It's really important to be authentic on social media, and overly filtered photos don't necessarily say authentic to a potential customer. You should also include the best way to contact you. Facebook can allow buyers to message you without leaving your page. If you have a business page, that little messenger bubble can pop up right when they go to your page. If an email or phone are a better way to contact you, you can reinforce that with a banner image, with a post, and we'll talk about how to do both of those in just a minute. You should also include a link to your website, which is allowable on almost every social site, as well as the name of your brokerage. Again, that adds to that credibility factor, which can be really, really hard to gain on social media. So like I mentioned before, there are some additional areas on your many profiles that you can place additional branding and information in that a lot of folks miss. So the first one is your profile header. Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn all allow large branded images right at the top of your page. So you want to make sure that you're making the most of these. They should be bright, they should be inviting. If you have additional information to convey, especially in places like Twitter where your bio is, again, very limited, the header is a great way to get that across. There are a whole bunch of free sites out there. My favorite is called Canva, like Canvas without the S on it, and they have templates available for those header size images. So you can edit right in there and know that it'll come out the right size. Headers aren't one size fits all. If something shows up perfectly on your Twitter, it likely won't show up the same on LinkedIn or Facebook, and parts will get cut off, and you just don't want that. Again, you can use this to highlight additional information, recent sales, new listings, or just your branding. I know one agent that I've worked with in the past would post a new photo of a house that had closed or sold within the last week every Friday. So that way, folks could see how many sales she was closing, how many sales were pending, and on top of that, she would make sure to get a great shot of the house with her sign with the sale pending or sold sign on it. That way, she was both showing off sales and showing off her branding. And of course, like most agents, her cell phone number was nice and large on there, meaning that she was able to highlight the best way to contact her. For our MyStateMLS page, our New York State MLS page, our header right now is about our Facebook Live events, which are every Tuesday and Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We have been live streaming to stay in contact with our users, even while we're not really able to go to live events right now. Twitter and Facebook specifically allow you to create a pinned post. That means it's just like one of your normal posts on your page, but you're able to make sure that no matter how much you post afterward, it stays at the top. And you're able to change this as frequently as you'd like. Again, you can use this similar to your profile header to share additional information when your About Me in your profile is pretty limited, especially on Twitter. On Twitter, you can also create threads, which are tweets that are essentially replies to each other. So if you have a lot of information to share, you can create a thread. And then when you click retweet with text, and then you can add text saying introduction thread, and then you can pin that tweet to make sure that the whole thread becomes your pinned tweet, and that allows you to get a lot of information out there. So you have your profile set up once you've chosen your social network, but now you have to post. Again, like I mentioned, this is not set it and forget it. You have to constantly be creating new content. We're going to talk about how to do that. But before we get started, do you have a content schedule? How do you decide what and when to post? Here at the MLS, we post every weekday, so you definitely don't need to do that. And we have a set calendar on what we want to post. What's most important is consistency. Evaluate what time you have available to help you determine your posting schedule. Once per week is the bare minimum for most sites. For Twitter, it should be even more than that. For platforms other than Twitter, however, you shouldn't really go more than once per day. It's important not to flood folks' feed. You want them to see you, but not see you all the time to the point where they get tired of your content. Every other day, 3 to 4 times a week is completely sufficient for most platforms. Like I said, here at the MLS, we aim for every day. That's because, like I mentioned, we have a dedicated marketing manager. Understandably, if you're an individual broker, if you're just a solo agent, things like that, you may not have as much time, and every other day is completely fine. Something that helps me be the most efficient when I'm planning out our social media content is to determine the type of post ahead of time as well. For example, we use hashtag Motivation Monday to post a quote related to success every Monday morning, first thing, just to cheer people up and get them talking for the day. If you tend to hold open houses every weekend, consider scheduling a post on Thursdays or Fridays that details all of the open houses that you have coming up. So think about what types of posts can you schedule. For example, one of my favorites here, Motivation Monday is a widely used hashtag, but one that we created just for our social media was Fantasy Home Friday, which is where we get to have fun looking for one of the most beautiful listings on our MLS this week and highlight it and talk about why it's such a beautiful home, why we love it, and encourage folks to tag their friends. For example, I know one that we had recently just had an absolutely beautiful view. So we said, like, tag the friend who's a nature photographer and would love this. So think about what kind of posts like that you can schedule out and share across your platforms. Timing is really important. Different social media networks have different best times to post. There are great sources out there. My personal favorite is called HubSpot. They create a whole ton of free content that teaches you about social media marketing. And every year, they research the best times to post for engagement across different countries, across different platforms, across different days of the week. So make sure that you're taking a look at their suggestions and scheduling your posts accordingly. It may seem difficult to remember all those times, and you might be wondering, do I have to set an alarm or things like that? But sites like Buffer or Hootsuite will allow you to schedule out posts in advance. Both of those have both free and paid versions, but the free version of Buffer allows you to schedule posts out about a week and a half and allows you up to 3 accounts. So for most agents, that'll be more than sufficient. So it's free and it saves you time. Next, we want to talk about tone. You're on a social network, and we know that real estate agents are natural salespeople. But when you're on a social network where people are there to talk to their family, to talk to their friends, you need to sound like a person, not a sales robot. That doesn't mean that it's not okay to post direct sales content. You absolutely can. You're there to show off and to sell the beautiful listings that you have, and you should let people know about them. However, you should make sure that there's a good balance. For example, if we're at the MLS are sharing content we've created, things we want people to sign up for, or promoting our membership, we make sure that in between that we have 2 to 3 informational or funny posts for people to interact with. And make sure that when you do post sales content, you're focusing on how it can benefit your followers. For example, if you're posting a home that's going to be open, you can share what kind of buyer this home would be best for. Again, making sure that it focuses on the benefit to them. And again, it's social. Don't just post and then walk away. If you get comments on your photos, if you get shares, if you get questions, make sure that you're answering them. Be a resource. This will help you develop a really engaged follower base who actually cares about what you're posting. Again, be friendly and personable. It's okay to be a bit irreverent. I say very cautiously, meaning especially on social media. I would exclude LinkedIn from this because it is a quite professional network, but Facebook, Twitter, it's okay to be a little funny sometimes. It's okay to be a human being, to be imperfect. But again, keep it clean, keep it appropriate. And like I've been saying this whole time, make sure you're being authentic. Folks know when someone's trying to sell them, and nothing will turn potential followers off faster than telling that you're only there to sell. And so once you figured out your tone, it's time to create content. Like I mentioned, every day of the week, or even 3 to 4 times a week, can seem pretty daunting, especially when you're not really sure what to start posting. So I will say it's okay to repost from other sources, as long as they don't specifically forbid this, as long as you credit them. Don't just copy an image from the internet without checking for the source, without making sure that the source is on the image or in your description. it's just not a good look. And when I say as long as they don't specifically forbid this, there will be some Instagram accounts that will say directly in the bio, don't repost my content, things like that. That can get you into trouble. So just make sure that you use content that you're able to repost. One thing that I really love that we post on our social media is celebrity home news. So I believe it's every Thursday we'll find something interesting or funny in the news about real estate. And if we can't really find a humorous article about real estate overall, I believe it's realtor.com shares celebrity home sale news. So for example, if those $1 million mansions in Hollywood or in Florida, things like that, they'll post when celebrities put their properties up for sale, and folks can get a look at what those homes look like, which I think we're all pretty curious about. So those tend to do pretty well for us because people are just interested. You can subscribe to realtor.com's newsletter, and in addition, the lighter side of real estate has some pretty funny articles that are great to share with your followers on your page. If you have a quotation about real estate, about success that you particularly like, you can use photo editors to take a royalty-free photo and add that quote over it. Again, sites like Canva, like I mentioned before, even have templates available that already have the font, the size chosen. All you have to do is drop in your image and text. So it couldn't be easier to make your own post. Like I mentioned before, you are here to share your listings. If you have a listing that's particularly beautiful or has something interesting or funny about it, it is completely okay to share them, especially if it's an interesting or unique feature of a home. I wouldn't even count that as a sales post if you're just sharing like, look at this neat thing. This is a great place to share on Instagram, like I mentioned before, especially if it's a luxury listing, if there's something particularly beautiful about the decor. You should absolutely post that to Instagram and then cross-post it over to Facebook. Finally, as I've mentioned, it's a social network. So you want to make sure that you're engaging with your followers. A great way to do that is to ask questions. Some of my favorite pages that I've seen really use their followers as a resource and make them feel involved in the listings. So one of my favorites is, for example, if your homeowner is thinking of repainting their home before publishing the listing. It's important to know what buyers are looking for right now. And a great way to do that is to share a picture of the room and a few of the paint colors they're considering, and just ask your followers which one they like. Ask them to chime in so they feel involved. In addition, if you have a buyer looking for a specific type of home, and you have their consent, of course, consider posting. Just say, I have a buyer who's looking for this feature, and this feature. Any of you out there looking to sell your home and meet these criteria? This is a great way to get seller leads from a buyer that you already have ready. If you are looking to take better photos or videos for your social media, we have talked about it a few times here before. We created a remote agent guide. In it, we have tips from a professional photographer on staging a home to take the best photos possible, and on how to conduct a video walkthrough, and then how to edit it. And these are both great things to share on Facebook, on Instagram. You can download it on our site so that you guys can see it and download it. That's a free resource that you can use. And again, if you don't have vacant listings that are safe for you to go to right now, if your homeowners are at home, then you can also send this to them to give them some tips on how to take the best photos possible. Last, make sure you're keeping it real. It's really, really easy to lose trust and lose credibility on social media. And when you've done that, it's really hard to get it back. So it's important to be real. We're all used to saying, there's no better time to sell your home and I can sell anybody's home. But the truth is it's not right now. And saying now's the best time, sales have never been better, is gonna come across as really tone deaf to folks who may be struggling. However, we are still seeing sales happen. Virtual showings are becoming more and more popular. And we've seen so many of our agents still manage to sell their listings even under stay-at-home orders. So instead you can say something like, of course more people are staying home, but we're still making sales. People still need to move, the market is still moving. And as I've mentioned before, it is okay and encouraged to be human. Being authentic and personable helps you find more engaged followers who are your ideal customers. And honestly, it's a lot more fun. If you've made a silly or relatable mistake, consider sharing it. For example, if you're helping a client clean up before you post or before you list their house, and something goes hilariously awry with your redecorating. It's okay to share. Or I've seen agents who are bringing furniture to a home to stage it, and they maybe don't consider how big their car is, so they have to get some pretty unique situations going with their trunk to fit all the furniture in. It's okay to post that, to post the funnier moments of being a real estate agent. Finally, you're a community expert. You serve really specific areas, and you want to make sure that you're known and liked there. So share posts about your area, especially right now while we're all trying to support small businesses, even if we're stuck at home. I know something that Dave posted on his social media that did really well was just a post about some chicken wings he was really excited about getting from a local restaurant. So things like that are really important. So looking at the questions, maybe I have one, any copyright issues with using content from real estate news? So when you're allowed to post articles with the source. So what I'm suggesting isn't just like taking the whole article, copying it and pasting it onto your site. What I'll generally do when reposting articles is read through them to find a quote that I find the most interesting, and then I'll post that and post the link underneath so that you're linking back. There's not an issue with this. You're in no way claiming credit. You're simply sharing their article so it gets more readers. Speaking as somebody who writes content for our blog, sharing it as long as you include the link is actively very much encouraged, so you won't really run into issues with that. So finally, I want to talk about Facebook's live streaming capabilities, because I think that this is something that we've seen a huge growth in since stay-at-home orders, but I really think that a lot of agents have been kind of sleeping on this before our current situation. And I think that it's something that's really important to continue even after we return to whatever business as normal looks like after this. So when you have a Facebook page, you're able to stream live video to your audience. Your page visitors will see the video in your feed, and your followers who've liked your page will receive a notification that you're live with a link to join. Those viewers can then comment in real time. They can react with the like, love button, things like that. You're also able to select an audience for the video. So for example, if you only want your friends to see it, you're able to do that. And one of the great things about Facebook Live is that it's automatically saved as a video to your page when you're finished. So you're able to create live content for people to engage with in real time, and then you're able to reuse it later, and visitors to your page can still come and see it. So when do you use it? Facebook Live is versatile, which means it can be used for everything from quick announcements to virtual events. A great way to handle this would be to create a schedule and promote it. That way your followers know when you'll be live and when to show up. For example, like I've mentioned here at the MLS, we go live every Tuesday and Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard. And we started doing this during shelter-in-place orders. Since we had a whole lot of in-person events planned for the spring that we now obviously can't attend, we wanted to make sure that we were still doing something to stay in touch with our audience. And that's what Facebook Live is awesome for. So think about, is there a specific topic that you could create a whole series of classes on and present every week or every other week to your viewers? For example, something that could be great would be a series of classes on buying your first home, everything that folks need to consider, which helps promote you as an expert to help first-time home buyers, and also just really helps your community. However, you don't always need to go live on a schedule. It is okay to just go live when something exciting is happening. If there's a current event going on or you have some exciting business news, it's okay to just start a live video. For example, something that we'll do really frequently here is if we are snowed in because we are located in upstate New York, we'll go live that day because we know that we have a somewhat captive audience of other local agents. If you're at a listing appointment and your seller signs the paperwork and gives you permission and you're really excited to show folks this coming soon listing, it's okay to go live and say, look, I just signed the paperwork for this listing. It'll be up really soon, but I just wanted to give my followers a sneak peek at how awesome this place is so that you can call me right now and get your showing set for as soon as this listing goes live. And again, you may be concerned that you won't get many viewers because you aren't on that regular schedule, you haven't had time to promote it, but the video will be saved automatically to your page, so later visitors can still see it and you can still keep getting views after. Finally, one of the greatest things I've seen Facebook Live used for, and why I mentioned that we're seeing an uptick in use, is virtual open houses. If you have vacant listings that you're able to access safely, Facebook Live is a great way to still hold an open house while maintaining social distancing. Even though it's a less formal platform than an in-person open house, we highly recommend that you prep your home and your presentation of the house similarly as how you would for an in-person open house. Advertise it on your social media, send out emails to your list of buyers who would be interested, advertise it on your company website if you're able, all of that. I also really highly recommend you create a flyer or brochure, which I know many of you do for in-person houses. You might not think that it's useful since they won't be there to pick it up. But I think it's even more useful because you can offer to email out the flyer or brochure to interested buyers. That way, if you're hosting it live on Facebook, you probably don't have the email address of everybody who's watching. And that way, you're able to get their email address, get them into your CRM as a lead, and send out that flyer or brochure, start the conversation, and start working with them as buyers. So again, once you've set a specified time, you've staged the house, you're all prepared, go live. It's really tempting to start in front of the front door. I think that's where most folks do because they consider it the beginning of the walkthrough. But especially when you're on social networks and there are so many other notifications flashing, there's messages popping up, you don't have a whole lot of time to grab and keep your buyer's attention. So a great piece of advice that I saw was to start in front of something really interesting. For example, the agent giving this talk had a home where the fridge dispensed ice that was shaped like boats. That's wild. That would get my attention if I was watching it because I want to know what else is going on in this person's house. So she made sure to start there and then began the walkthrough from there. Make sure you're not just giving a presentation, you're trying to interact with your followers. So make sure you engage your audience by asking them questions and encouraging them to ask questions in return. Make sure that you focus on areas they ask about. If they're asking for specific stats about the house, make sure you have those handy. Finally, something that's slightly better about a virtual open house as opposed to an in-person one is that you're able to tailor it to highlight the best features of the property that folks may not notice if they were allowed to just sort of poke around on their own. Consider showing up to the property early to think about what features you really want to highlight. Something that I've seen done recently that I was really impressed with was a brokerage where they all hosted an open house on one day over the weekend. And they had an entire page on their company website that had all the listings that were up and then the links to all of the agent's social media. And then after the open house day, they changed the page just to say, these open houses have passed, but the videos are still available. And again, I've said this before, but I love that so much about Facebook Live video, rather than an open house, which you spend 3 hours there and you're only really able to interact with the buyers who show up. With a virtual open house, it'll likely be a lot shorter because everybody's there at once. And in addition, you're able to keep reusing it. And depending on your privacy settings, other people are also able to share it, which means that it gets reached beyond just your page. That's all I have for you guys today. Other than that, thank you guys so much for joining us today. We are live with the Marketing May series every Thursday at 2 p.m. through the month of May. If you're signed up here and you're already registered for all 3 sessions and you'll keep getting reminders. There's no need to sign up again. Thank you guys so much for joining.